Hey everyone, my name's Ned, and today I'm going to talk about how to get started in ARK, where to play, the different methods through which you can play, whether it's single player, non-dedicated sessions, official servers, vanilla, unofficial, modded, unofficial, or even hosting your own. And so, this is a thing that I feel like players don't always, it might seem a bit overwhelming for some players, especially new players. So I just want to kind of, go in depth and really quickly explain kind of what the main mechanics are to each of these modes, and maybe then you can kind of figure out what you would prefer to play on. And so without further ado, let's get started. The first mode I'll be talking about is single player. This is pretty self-explanatory. This is your own world where you can kind of just play completely by yourself. You don't have to worry about other players joining you. You can do this offline as well. It allows you to directly change all of the settings through a very fairly simple UI, as you can see. You've got like an advanced menu too. You can even change engrams, I think. There's all kinds of things you can do just on the fly, just at your single player UI. You've got all the maps here, although you have to buy, I think 4 of these. The others are free. But just do keep in mind, it's fairly empty. ARK is, at its core, ARK is a multiplayer focused game, and so playing by yourself in a completely empty world where you're the only survivor is definitely takes away from the ARK experience a little bit. But I'm not saying it's a bad way to play. There's a lot of people that play single player, and so that kind of leads into the next way you can play, which is hosting non-dedicated sessions. Now this is kind of a combination, it's almost like a halfway point between unofficial and single player. And so what it does is essentially allows you to open your single player world up to kind of a co-op session. The only downside to this is that, of course, you have to have, the host has to have their game open to run the server, and also there's only 4 slots. Added on to that, there's also a host tether distance, which is essentially like an invisible shield kind of line around the player, which nobody can actually see, but it kind of tugs all the other players towards them wherever the host player goes. You can turn up this distance, and you can pretty much set it to infinity on if you're on PC, but unfortunately I think it can still have some glitches, like whenever the character teleports it might end up killing all the other characters. I'm not totally sure about that, and at least on console you can't actually turn up the tether distance, so that's something you're very limited with, especially on consoles. Now moving on to official servers. This is kind of the way that people will typically play, or at least people usually when they first find the game and they find servers, they're going to be like, well, okay, let me just play on an official server, because that makes sense. And so official servers are indirectly run by the developers, Wildcard. They hire a third party to kind of run all these servers for them, and they range from all kinds of different modes. There's PvP and PvE, as well as there's Primitive Plus. There is ARK Apocalypse servers, which wipe every month. There is No Tech. There are proc gen worlds. There are just all kinds of different types and flavors of ARK. Keep in mind, official servers are quite laggy most of the time, depending on the players, because anyone can join them, and they're pretty popular considering they have an entire filter just dedicated to the official servers. And so because of that, there tends to be a lot of structured build-up, a lot of dino tame build-up, and so they're usually higher ping than maybe some unofficial servers you might be able to find. And on top of that, there's kind of pure anarchy system on official servers, at least if they're PvP enabled, which allows people to just do whatever they want, aside from certain semantic things, like you can't say certain things. Those are totally against the rules. And yeah, this is definitely a good option if you're somebody who doesn't mind lag and who just wants to fight and have an all-out war with everyone on PvP. And then PvE servers, I definitely wouldn't necessarily recommend, because the ARK PvE setting is definitely a little bit limited with what you can do, as in you can't destroy certain structures and whatnot. Moving on to unofficial. Now, unofficial is kind of broken up into 2 categories. There are vanilla servers, which are just like official servers, except they're run by players. And then there are modded unofficial servers, they take up the majority of the servers that you'll find in the unofficial server list is these modded servers, because there are so many players that run servers that use mods, and so they end up adding them, which is kind of the explanation for why there are so many. But if you'd like the kind of pure ARK, vanilla default kind of experience, which a lot of players want, but it's oftentimes kind of hard for them to find. As you'll see here, a lot of these servers are actually quite empty. And so if you're looking for an unofficial server, shameless plug here, vanilla unofficial server, I run ARK Vanilla Evolved. I'll have a link below if you're interested in joining. But regardless, these servers are kind of hard to come by because, as I said, so many players use mods, which leads me into the next category, which is modded unofficial servers. You'll find these by the plenty all over the place. There are thousands of them, quite literally. They're very easy to find. Typically they have more players because there are certain mods that make the game a lot more convenient in some aspects, and so that would be why they're so populated most of the time. Do keep in mind though, with unofficial servers, you don't necessarily have any guarantee that they'll remain up like the official servers do. Although this kind of is almost meaningless because of how buggy the official servers can be, with them, going down and crashing, and because there's so many, it's hard for them to kind of manage them all. The last method through which you can play the game is, of course, hosting your own unofficial server. And if you'd like to do this, I have created a 3-part guide on, really more of a 2-part guide. The third video is kind of just for epic players, but if you'd like to learn how to make your own server, how to run it, how to set it up and configure and everything, and even how to add mods if that's something you're interested in, then you can check out my 2 videos. I'll leave them in the description below. And so that should help you kind of learn how to make your own server. This is definitely a good method if you just want to set up your own server with a couple friends, or maybe make it public and have other players on it. But yeah, so I really hope this helped you kind of have a better understanding of the different types of ways you can play ARK, whether it's by yourself or on official servers or unofficial, or even making your own. If you like my video, you can give it a like. If you want to support me on Patreon, you can check out my Patreon below. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video, where I'll kind of be going over the 9 different maps in ARK and doing a general overview of each one, and then I'll be making a video for each one, going specifically into the different resource rarities, loot qualities, creature spawns, and all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching again, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye everyone.